Imagine a place of darkness and fear filled with mystery and despair. That's kind of what Affordable Space Adventures is. If you just heard the name Affordable Space Adventures and knew nothing else about the game, a dreary setting isn't the first thing that would come to your mind. Trust me, when I booted up the game for the first time, I was in a similar mindset. However, this is exactly the kind of atmosphere the game is going for. The whole beginning, from the title screen until you actually start playing, is misleading. The opening tells you of a beautiful alien utopia that you and many other tourists will be exploring. It leads you to believe that your affordable space adventure will be a peaceful, epic, and most importantly, a safe adventure. But just the opposite is true. After the opening cutscene ends, a dark, smoky environment fades onto screen, and immediately you know something has gone wrong. From all the wreckage, it's clear that the trek to this alien planet was not a successful mission. This whole opening establishes the atmosphere of dread and darkness perfectly. You're just an isolated spaceship navigating a desolate planet, and whenever you hear a sound that seems out of place, you can't help but be a bit afraid. Of course, I am a little over-exaggerating. I mean, the atmosphere is great and the game does a good job of conveying the tone, but it doesn't do too much more. It sticks to darker visuals throughout the whole adventure, and that's fine, but sometimes the game can feel a bit drab, with each area feeling really similar to each other. The backgrounds do change sometimes, but for people not looking for a very atmospheric title, the visual style may not be too appealing. These complaints in my eyes were never detrimental to my experience though, and if I did feel the world was too dark, I would just increase the gamma levels. And I do really like the art direction with its semi-realistic, semi-cartoony style. The one thing I don't like is the sound direction. The voice acting in the game is wonderful, and I think the actors and actresses did a spectacular job. But the thing is, the sound during gameplay is really inconsistent volume-wise. During the loading screens, which are pretty plentiful, the volume levels would increase to a degree that hurt my ears. This happens so frequently that I went out of my way to mute my TV during these sections. Sometimes this unbalanced sound problem happens in-game with beeps and other annoying noises, but just not as much. The only solution I saw was just muting the audio at all times. You could argue that this adds to the aforementioned scary and mysterious atmosphere, but the sound shouldn't be so unappealing that the player has to mute their TV. This was the one thing that made the whole atmosphere worse, but it wasn't so bad that it made me despise the presentation altogether. Then there's the gameplay. See, you're a person in a tiny spaceship traversing the depths of Spectaculon, the supposed alien utopia. Like I said earlier, the whole point of the game is to tour the planet, and really regardless of how the plot is presented, that's the bulk of the gameplay. You fly around areas using the gamepad, trying to avoid harmful alien relics and traps along the way. There's really not anything to collect, and a lot of the world can feel empty. The alien relics and puzzles serve as a way to diversify the gameplay, but these puzzles and alien mechanics are formulaic and not too interesting. The puzzles can involve you pushing blocks, adjusting thrusters, or just shooting a big glowing red button. And dealing with enemies does get repetitive, as every time you have to scan the enemy and adjust your ship's settings to not get obliterated. Switching around the ship's settings is something you'll be doing a lot of actually. Sometimes the game will give you a body of water you have to go through, and the only way to do that is to use an electric engine or increase your mass. Also, if an enemy appears that is sensitive to electricity, you have to reduce the amount of electricity the ship generates to get past it. Sure, this is a unique concept, but after 5 hours of doing the same thing over and over with enemies, it gets a bit tedious. In fact, the gameplay is not the most entertaining thing ever. Exploring the alien world while the locations are varied and new mechanics are introduced became boring after a while. Oftentimes I would wonder when the game would end because of how uninteresting the game can be. It's usually never a good sign when the player is pondering when their experience will be over. Plus, the controls are awkward on the gamepad, but to be fair, that's more of a hardware issue than the game's fault. Regardless, switching thruster levels, gravity levels, and other features on your ship using the gamepad touchscreen feels clunky since your vision has to move back and forth from the gamepad to the TV. It does get easier with the addition of being able to turn off and on your ship's two engines, but I digress. Additionally, you would think with the game having a desolate space setting, exploration would be the key to getting new upgrades and progression, but sadly this is not the case. Most exploration is linear with really no other paths to explore or to find additional items in. You just go from point A to point B, and while the game does this well, it's kind of disappointing that a game all about a space adventure to an uncharted planet is mostly linear. Other than that, there's not much else to say about the gameplay. You just fly around the planet trying to find refuge while avoiding aliens and other hazards. And for just doing that, I would say the gameplay's decent. Overall, Affordable Space Adventure Adventures is a decent game. I had some complaints with it, but the gameplay and atmosphere are really solid. It doesn't do anything mind-blowing, but it's certainly competent. And the sound problems could be fixed with a patch or something because I am reviewing an early copy of the game. As for my problems with the controls, it's more of a problem that stems from the gamepad itself, so I can't harp on the game too much for that. But if I had to give Affordable Space Adventures a score, I would award it a 7 out of 10. It's a decent game, but would I recommend you buy it? Well, $20 is a bit pricey for a title like this. If you like exploring in a linear fashion in the whole science fiction setting, then you probably would like this game. Like every other video game, it's not for everyone. So for those interested in the game, I would say buy it, but for those on the fence, I would recommend you wait for a price drop or a sale. $15 is a bit more reasonable of a price to justify the purchase. But if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching and take care. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.